Welcome back to Faces and Places. I'm your host, Manuel Rodriguez. Last spring, Arnold Viramontes joined Team HISD as a new Chief Technology Information Officer. Mr. Viramontes has over 40 years of technical and operational experience. Arnold, thank you for joining me today here on Faces and Places. You're new to the district this year. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you came from, and how you bit into HISD.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I was actually born in El Paso. I was raised in Las Cruces, New Mexico. My mother always said that she had me in El Paso and got to New Mexico as fast as she could. But I got to Houston first through Dallas. I was chief of staff in Dallas, did mostly operations in Dallas. And prior to that, I was retired. We took a company public in 1981. I retired from there as president in 1993. We were in the direct mail, direct marketing, data processing, computer processing business. And then from there, I bought and sold real estate for a little while, and then I went to work for Tony Trujillo, who I'm sure you know, in Isleta, and we put an infrastructure in place there. I was lured away to Austin to do the Telecommunications Infrastructure Fund board there, and we wired most of Texas, and that was a lot of fun. And then I went to Dallas. Prior to that, I'm a senior research fellow at the IC² Institute at the University of Texas. That's George Kosmetsky's group, and we help entrepreneurially some new businesses get started and get off the ground.
So what is your formal title here at HISD?
Chief Technology Information Officer.
When you came to Houston with the Council of Greater City Schools to do an audit for our technology, what did you find, and did that help convince you to come to Houston?
Interesting story. I was asked, I've done several of these peer audits, and it's a great program that the council has called Schools Helping Schools. And so when they asked me to come to Houston, quite honestly, I said, you know, you really need to get somebody else to do it because I'm going to retire in August and go off and finish writing books and do some other things, maybe play a little golf. But they talked me into coming. And during the course of the audit, you know, as you know, we found that the infrastructure was in need of reconstruction. The security had several holes in it. We needed to rebuild that security veil. The organization wasn't structured quite right. There wasn't a data warehouse, and the equipment was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And so when I saw all that, I was sitting there in the room, and all of a sudden I get tapped on the shoulder, and it's Dr. Greer. And quite honestly, I had not met Dr. Greer prior to coming for those 3 days. And so he asked me, he said, I understand that you're going to retire. And I said, well, it's not for public knowledge, but yes, my intent is to retire in August. Again, I retired 3 other times, but, and he said, have you seen that we have a job posting? And I said, quite honestly, I know you have one because I'm doing the review with the council, but personally, no, I've not looked at it. So one thing led to another, and the next thing I know, I'm renting an apartment in Houston, and what attracted me, quite honestly, was the 204,000 kids. When you've been as fortunate as I have in my life, the opportunity to make a difference with, you know, at another school district and help 204,000 kids in some small way that I can, that's very attractive. And I could see that this school district is extremely progressive. And quite honestly, I have to thank you because when we were doing our technology plan, you helped us quite a bit. You sat down, were very open and frank about answering our questions as we were doing our needs assessment. So it's a very progressive school district, and it's very inviting to help 204,000 kids.
So tell us what a Chief Technology Information Officer does.
Well, basically what we do is we work with the infrastructure and the security, and more importantly, the data and the information that we can put in the hands of our teachers and our students, and make sure that we try to integrate technology into the curriculum because every child is different, and every child learns at a different rate. And in this global, you know, very competitive world that we live in these days, you have to have the ability to let them transition.
When I got involved several years ago, probably, well, I'm going to talk specifically early 90s, I know that HISD's infrastructure for technology was one of the best. We had a portal. I used to describe us as having a Porsche Carrera in the garage, but we only used it to go to the convenience store and then bring it back. We weren't using it to its fullest potential. That's been 2 decades ago. And with the way technology just grows and gets better and better, when you came to HISD, what does our technology infrastructure look like, and where do we need to go?
Well, quite honestly, it's a little out of date. It needs to be updated. The security is lacking. The organization wasn't set up in a way that it could be customer-centric, and it doesn't allow for flexibility. So it appears that over the last several years that it wasn't attended to very well. And when you have infrastructure and when you have technology, everybody is using it, and it just changes so rapidly that you have to maintain the underpinnings in order to make it effective.
Now, you mentioned security. Why is it important for us to make sure that our security is state of the art?
Well, as you well know, we have 204,000 children, and we also have a huge responsibility to those children. They need to know that the information that we put in front of them is safe, that their parents know that it's safe, and also that we need to make sure, not only from a security standpoint, but from an accuracy standpoint, that what we show them and what they're learning is indeed what they should be learning, and it is accurate.
The board just approved a $10 million infusion for technology, and we just went through an audit for our technology. Tell me what the audit found, what we're proposing, and how long it'll take to get to where we want to go.
Well, what the audit found was, just as I stated, the infrastructure and the security were in need of a reconstruction. It also found that the organization was not structured correctly. There was too many direct reports. It also found that there was a desperate, dire need for data governance. There was a desperate, dire need for a data warehouse because there was too many versions. There are too many versions of the data out there. The issue being that it needs to be held, people need to be held accountable for the data, and who's responsible for the content. And the third thing is, or the last thing is that, as we look at the infrastructure and we look at what is going on, we have to be able to integrate it into what we're doing in order to produce the best product for our kids.
Here in HISD, we're a large entity. And we have administrators that use the system, we have teachers that use the system, we have students that use the system, and we hope that we have parents that use our website and portal to be able to access information for their students. Will this new system be friendly for all users?
Well, the industry is user-friendly, right? We say that all the time. And what's important is that you include the parents, you include the students, you include the teachers into what you're trying to design in order for them to use it and make it user-friendly. It also has to be put in the form of a data warehouse so that you can access the information with a certain amount of credibility and speed of access as well.
So when we're using this, and we've talked a little bit about the parents, what kind of access will parents have to the information?
Well, it'll be web-based, or it'll be on a cell phone. It will be on whatever device that they can have. We are beyond the point where we dictate the devices that people have. I mean, I think that we're all aware that smartphones are here to stay, and people use them. So we need to accommodate those form factors and put the information in those realms for them to see.
You just said a word, device, and we've read a lot here recently about devices in the classroom for students, devices for special ed needs, all kinds of devices. The iPhone 4 that just came out. Tell me a little bit about the devices that are available to students.
Well, the thing about devices is that they change almost every month. So we're taking the approach where it has to be device independent, in that if you have an iPhone or you have an Android device or whatever that may be, that we can make the form factor work for whatever data we have. Let's take autism. We have a tablet. The iPads and the tablets these days are tremendous tools for autistic kids. They have some of the software that will help the developmental process incredible. And it's just a device that not only is it becoming more cost effective, but it's also becoming pervasive throughout the entire environment.
So again, cost effective, budgetary constraints, iPad like that for our students. What kind of price range are we looking at?
You're looking at $399. You get an older one for $299. I mean, it just depends on the application that you're trying to do. But you're also looking at, a migration life of, 3 to 4 or 5 years.
And again, you say it's not just buying the equipment, it's maintaining it and sustaining it so that it can be used year after year or refurbished or replaced. What kind of long-range plans does HISD have for technology?
Well, you can't have the rebuilding of an infrastructure and the aging of equipment unless you implement a migration strategy. You have to have a refreshed life cycle. We look at 5 years right now. So currently we're doing a needs assessment across the entire district to make that determination and to schedule how this equipment will be replaced.
I make a joke with my wife saying, I don't want another big screen TV. I'm going to wait for my eyeglasses to be able to just punch a button and see a movie. Technology is moving so fast, and you said it changes month to month. How do we ensure, or how do we understand this technology and keep it fresh for the students as they come in year after year?
Well, I think that you can't be reactive, you have to be proactive. You have to plan for the future, but you have to plan for the future not in what they commonly refer to the bleeding edge. You have to plan for the future in how you're going to integrate it into the curriculum, how you're going to integrate it into the studies, and how the children are using them. There is that fine line about planning, and how you're going to use it. So you're not at the bleeding edge, and you're not reactive to it. So you're right in the middle of that planning period.
I know my granddaughter, she's 4.5, and she can get on her computer and find her software and play games, and she's learning to read and recognize the alphabets and the numbers and all of this other great stuff. Do we have that type of programming and software in our pre-K and kindergarten classes?
You don't have it in some of them, not in all of them. That is the issue that we're wrestling with in HISD, is that of equity, and how we can take a look at standards across the district to ensure that we try to mitigate any older equipment and or software and try to develop that equity.
Arnold, it's been a pleasure talking with you today. I'm glad that you're here with us in HISD so that we can make sure that we can rebuild that Porsche Carrera and take off to the future.
Well, I'll put the 4-speed in it.
Thank you.
You bet.
I want to remind all parents to log on to HoustonISD.org for all the updates and information about HISD. On our website, you'll see all the wonderful programs HISD offers our students, and you'll understand what makes HISD such a good choice for your son or daughter. I'm Manuel Rodriguez, and I'll see you next time on Faces and Places.